meeting to mydeerfield.org so that other residents and staff can view it. So I think everybody's here. Pat, are you aware of any committee members that we might be waiting on, or does this look like the gang?
Probably about everybody.
All right, good. Well, thank you so much for being here and joining us today. We've got some special guests on the call, and I'm going to introduce everybody here in just a minute. But before I make my introductions, I just want to kind of go over what I'd like to have happen here today. I'd like for us to review some partially complete schematic designs. They're called 50% schematics of all of our potential new dining venues that we're looking at adding to this new repositioning project that we're hoping to achieve in the next couple of years. I know that you're all somewhat familiar with the project because you've viewed other presentations in the past. So the way I see this going is our guests are going to kind of lead us and share their screen and go through the drawings and the concepts. Feel free to ask questions throughout. Feel free to make suggestions. I want this to be an open kind of working meeting. We've already had 3 of these and they've been very successful. We've gotten a lot of really good feedback from residents that has been very helpful to us while we're in this process. So feel free to share. So to let our guests know who you are, this is our dining committee, part of our resident council structure. Primary function of the dining committee is to provide feedback and suggestions and guidance to leadership here at Deerfield. It's been quite a crazy year, as you might imagine. All of our dining services have been turned upside down and recreated, and this committee has been incredibly supportive and helpful throughout that process. So I want to thank you guys for that. Our guests. We've got guests from 2 different firms today. We've got 2 folks from THW Design, which I think most of you are familiar with THW Design out of Atlanta, our architecture firm. We've got John Harrell. John has been with THW for, I believe, 10 years, and he's been doing this line of work for somewhere around 40 years. Okay. We've got Dustin Warmus. Dustin has been with THW was it 15 years, Dustin?
23 years, believe it or not.
I missed that every time. 23 years. Make a note so I get it right next time. So both John and Dustin have a long history with Deerfield and have been working with us every step of the way throughout this process. So you're going to enjoy hearing from them. Another firm that I've got with us on the call today is Scopus Hospitality Group. I've got several folks from Scopus, Matt Schuler being one. Allison, are you with Scopus? Yep. Allison?
Correct. Yes. Yep.
All right. I know you're unfamiliar with Scopus because this is sort of the first resident meeting we've had with this group. So I'm going to let Matt kind of give a little overview of what Scopus is and what we're doing.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. There's 2 Matts on the call here today. It might get a little confusing. So if you would prefer or would like to call me Chef, that might help to ease the confusion when questions are being asked. As you can see behind me, that is me as well. I am a chef of, I don't know how many years now. Let's see, I'm 42, started off at 16. So let's just say over 20 years, I've dedicated my life to the food service world. The last 6 years, I've spent with Scopus Hospitality Group as a design consultant and director of culinary development. And I work with communities all over the country for renovations and new construction. I have, probably, I think we have over 175 active projects right now from coast to coast, from Maine to Florida, from Seattle to California, and everything in between. So Scopus works with John and Dustin's team to start laying out and programming the spaces to make sure we look at proper number of seats in the environments, what the program's going to actually look like and or feel like from a food standpoint, and then working closely with the internal food service team, Adam and his team, to make sure that from an execution standpoint, they are comfortable with the direction that the design is being headed towards. So I'm familiar with working with these resident dining committees, and I love them because there's lots of great input, as every community is different. And although we are designing a program and or venues that you might not currently have on campus, it helps from my standpoint and Adam and everybody else that we can kind of walk you through this and kind of share that experience. So glad to be on this call. The guy behind me won't move much, but he is there and he is happy. And I look forward to answering any of the questions that you may have as we go through this. So thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Before I turn it over to John to start going through the designs, I just want to make a few key points just to make sure we're all on the same page. First point, these plans are in development. They're going to continue to change. So the plans that you see today they're already evolving. We've already provided some feedback to change some things. So these plans will change. Keep that in mind. Number two, as we get further along in this repositioning project and we learn more about construction costs and feasibility studies and all that, we may need to figure out how to phase some of these amenities in and some of these features. I always use an example with our last repositioning project that we did phase in the Riverwalk Spa. So if any of you guys were here, you might recall that we came in a couple years later and finished out the spa. It was basically a shell for a number of years. So we might end up needing to do some of that with this project. And then lastly, I did share with you some files yesterday on an email. If you would, just kind of keep those to yourself because those files are going to be changing and we're going to have new ones. So please just keep those to yourself. John, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Matt. We are pleased to be here today and have this opportunity to share the progress we've made so far on this project and how we're addressing food service in the different venues. And the way we approach this, I'm going to give a kind of general orientation of the buildings and what we're going to be looking at. Then Dustin, as we go through each level of the building, Dustin's going to give a kind of an architecture overview of the organization, kind of what our vision was and why things are located the way they are. And then I think Matt can dive into more detail and really talk about the dining experience itself and what we're looking at. So let me share my screen here. Okay, so do y'all see the site plan?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You want to come over here so you can see it?
And I just want to make a comment. It might help if everybody goes on mute until you're ready to ask a question or have a comment.
Okay, so this is a general site plan of part of the project. What's not shown on this plan is the work we're doing up at the adjacent to the skilled nursing assisted living existing buildings. But this is the southern half of the project, and to orient us, the right up here, there's kind of the square building up here, the existing community center with Henry Hall next door. And then the other direction, you have Timpson and you have Tootin. So then this is the Circle Woods between those buildings. And at the community center, you know, this is the drive under the front of the building. You enter the building here. So the parts of the project, the different components that we're looking at is at the community center, we're looking at adding a new Blue Ridge room onto the building. And then across from Blue Ridge room, we're going to increase the available parking by putting in a parking deck. And then the other side of Henry Hall, we have a new independent living building going in. It's going to be very similar in size and character to the existing uh, independent living building. At the center of the landscape, there's going to be a water feature, and on the other side of the water feature is a new building. It's a 3-level building. On the bottom level is a community center with 2 floors of assisted living above. And then there's 2 other buildings we're looking at. We're calling them hybrid homes. They're independent living buildings, but they're smaller than the independent living, the larger buildings. That's why we call them hybrids, because they're much smaller. And you can see there are connectors connecting the buildings so that you can get to all the buildings except for the new hybrids without going outside during inclement weather. So the new community center was located on this side of this kind of circle, being the opposite of the existing community center, to kind of be equidistant to different independent living buildings going either direction. Plus, as the south part of the campus continues to develop, it can serve the people at that end of the campus and their future needs. So I'm going to bring up a plan of the community center right now. It's going to turn it about 90 degrees, but again, this is, again, just a site plan of the community center. Again, this is Tootin over here. This is Henry up here. So that's the new independent living building. So this is the new community center. And as I said, it's a 3-level building, and the lowest level is where all the community center activities take place. So Dustin, you want to kind of dive in here?
Sure, John. I'll walk you through the plan, and as Matt said, if there's any questions along the way, just stop me and I'll try and answer them. Or when we get later on down and we start talking about the dining, if there's any more detail, we'll pick it up at that point. I'll try and stay a little more high level. So to start with this commons building or clubhouse space, we were trying to provide something that's unique to the campus. Where rather than duplicate what you have in your current clubhouse, we're trying to create some spaces over here that maybe are not currently on campus, as well as consolidate some of the spaces on the other side of the campus, such as the arts and crafts spaces, into this new building. So we're looking to bring a lot of those spaces together, hopefully bring a lot of activities to this area. And when you look at this plan as a whole, the right side of the plan is primarily dedicated to arts and crafts type functions, whether it be the painting studio, pottery, we've got a fiber studio, as well as all the supporting spaces in between, all the specific storage requirements. The space needs have all been based around the what you currently have on campus and going through maybe what is sufficient or what needs to maybe increase in size to accommodate what those functions want to be in the future. So we see that side of the plan more dedicated to arts. We see this whole building incorporating more of a flair for the arts, where resident artworks and crafts are maybe displayed through the building, so that it doesn't feel like it's tucked away on an obscure floor in one of the buildings, but it's front and center. We've got a lot of exterior exposure. So in this building, we're taking advantage of all the exterior, the great views out to the site, as well as access to the site. So you'll see in all these spaces, we've got a lot of windows. We've got high ceilings. The volume creates a lot of energy with the natural light. And we also have a lot of connectivity from space to space and from space to outdoors. So we've got a lot of spaces opening into one another. We're not trying to hide any of these crafts. We want them to be front and center and have a lot of that activity, energize each of the spaces. Around spaces like the painting studio, we've got an outdoor porch. There's a covered porch. Take your easel outside and paint overlooking the water. We've got a great courtyard in the middle of that space. There's an event lawn. There's a lot of hardscape and patios for outdoor seating, whether it be dining, lounge seating, activities associated with the pub or associated with the arts center. All of that is energized by the fact that on the north side of this plan, or the upper side of the screen here, we've got a new water feature. And that looks across, as John pointed out, looks across to the new independent living building. Got a lot of walking trails, really hoping to pick up on the indoor-outdoor connectivity to really bring this new clubhouse alive. On this side of the plan that we're looking at, we've got more of the dining type functions. We've got a new pub. That pub's meant to be a unique dining experience there as well. Just like the arts side, we've got exposure on 3 sides. Got great natural light. We're going to have a 2-story vaulted ceiling in that space. Create some real unique environments that maybe are not on campus now. A real unique feel to this building, but also bring in, as you'll see when we go through Matt's portion with the food service, we're trying to create something unique over here. But as I said, just like the art side, we've got indoor-outdoor connections. You can take your food and beverages outside, dine out by the courtyard, or go out on that side there where John's pointing on the covered porch and overlooking the Circle Woods. We intend for that new water feature to originate up in the woods, start from a trickling stream to a waterfall, kind of weave it through the existing trees, and then spill under the connector into this new water feature. Try and create some really, really nice features out there on the site. We'll have outdoor spaces, outdoor patios, fire pits, lounging areas, as well as the great views from the inside. And then as you exit the pub and you go into the main building there, we do have kind of a hospitality station and a lounge. We're seeing that being more of a multi-purpose space, whether it's some of the functions spilling out of the pub, or say you have dinner and a movie night. We've got a dedicated movie theater here. Maybe you have dinner and the movie, and that lounge is treated like a pre-function space for movie events. If you're coming across a connector from one of the apartment buildings, as John said, you've got enclosed condition connections all throughout the campus. Or if you're a cottage resident and you want to drive up, we've got parking out front. You've got access to a covered drop-off to the front lobby. Or if you want to park and come in the foyer to the left side of the plan, you've got direct access either into the wood shop, or if you're going to the pub, you can access the pub on that side. We've got a dedicated kitchen in this building on the left side of the plan. The kitchen's positioned so that we have got service access from the hidden service area behind the wood shop. Kind of our back of house spaces on that side of the plan. But we also positioned it there so that we can circulate food up to the dining on the upper levels on level 3, behind the scenes to an exhibition kitchen on the upper level. So we got that seamless food transfer to the upper floor as well. And as far as the plan in general, we see the back side of the plan being more of that private resident zone. We've got all the activities spilling into one another. On the front side of the plan, knowing that we've got assisted living residences up above, we've got visitor access at the front door to a reception desk. There's a small understated lobby there for visitors to come and go, but they also have that south corridor access to an elevator lobby to get up to visit residents on those upper levels without having to traverse through a lot of these clubhouse functions on the backside. John, you want to jump to another floor?
Sure. Yeah, let me get back to where
I know
I
I kind of skimmed through that real quick, but I think when you see the upper floors, it'll make sense with the condition connections. Floor number 2 is more of that circulation level, whether you're coming over from the new independent living building through a connector over the water feature, views off one side to the woods, views to the right over the new water feature and courtyard. You'll come across that level on an elevated connector overlooking the pub below. So there'll be an open railing there looking down into that space. Got a 2-story fireplace, lots of glass, natural light, as well as if you decided you wanted to make a left off that connector to that upper balcony space. There's another outdoor experience there. We can go outside, once again, have those wooded views off that side, looking down towards the waterfall. As you traverse down there, that's kind of the hub where the buildings all connect. We've got a connector coming from Tooten as well. They kind of meet up in that area. We've got activity, we've got a salon, some conference space. That is a hub that's going to be shared with the assisted living residences there. We've got 12 new residences on each level. Their dedicated space is on the right side of the plan there, just past the care base. So that's where all the residents will be. They've got their own living area, all the support spaces, but they'll have access out there to use those activities up on that level as well. But they'll have the privacy of being separated from a lot of that circulation. And if you jump up to the next floor, we've got, once again, 12 more AL residences up here. Same sort of configuration. We're stacking those levels. The intention is that the residents living in those 2 floors share the functions on the left side of the plan. So if you were going to dining, you would go to the 3rd floor. If you're going to an activity or the salon, you would go down to the 2nd floor. So it forces the residents to intermingle, so you're not more or less sequestered to your floor. We see some interaction between both levels, try and get those 24 residents socializing. On this level, we've got mainly the space dedicated to dining. We've got a dining room that overlooks, once again, overlooks the Circle Woods. We've got a lot of glazing up there for natural light and views down to the water feature below, the wooded area, as well as a private dining space that can be used for small gatherings or maybe a party, or you can open the doors up and use it for overflow seating if you needed more seating for a little larger dining event. We've got a pantry up here where our food service comes into that pantry behind the scenes. You can prep there, take it out to the dining room, or use the exhibition kitchen here to do some of your finishing work there and make that more of a feature to the dining room itself. So I know that was kind of quick. Any questions or anything you wanted to add, John?
Well, Dustin, while we're up here on the 3rd floor in the assisted living dining and pantry, could we see some of the images of the exhibition kitchen and some of the sort of the more details of that area?
You click on my leader there, it'll take you, brother.
You mean like the 3D? Let me see here.
Should be QFE 120.
Yeah.
Matt, you want me to kind of talk about?
Yeah. Yes. Would you mind?
Sure. Sure. So in this experience, we wanted to be a little more transparent and have a little more connection with the residents in terms of making and plating up those meals. So there will be an openness, a feel to being able to see inside that exhibition area while still hiding in the back pantry all of the stuff we don't want to see, i.e. the dishwashing, et cetera. There's a better view kind of right there of that view and having some of that food on display so that you can see, smell, and have a more cook to order experience on this level, as opposed to just having a dining room with a cyclical kind of scoop and serve of menus. So being able to have eggs to order, for breakfast, different lunch options, creating more of a restaurant style of service for this level.
Right. And just so we're all on the same page, this is for the assisted living dining room on the third floor. So
Correct.
you can, if you're sitting in that dining room, you're going to have views outdoors. You're going to have views over the Circle Woods and over the water feature. And then if you look towards the kitchen, you're going to be able to see inside the kitchen and see some cooking and smell and have that experience going on.
John, one of the questions that comes up occasionally on our current dining, I'm just curious for both the third floor and the first level on this one, is parking spaces allocated for all the carts and buggies that various people use. Any thoughts about where we might, how we might handle that when we get crowded days?
Well, we do have, this is cart storage over here where this green area is.
A fairly decent sized room. And then on the first floor as well, we have similar, same color.
Right, cart storage right here on the first floor.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, we talked with the assisted living team. Right now we have a cart storage next to the dining room, and it's when we can open the dining room, it's used quite frequently. So we wanted to make sure we had a similar space, and glad we do. Yep, Mrs. Dixon.
This is very elegant for these few people in this particular assisted living. Are these people chosen specially for this area, or is it just luck of the draw? And will things change on the other side with the existing assisted living?
Sure, great question. So just so we're all clear, there's proposed 24 units. So there's 12 units per floor in this building. So it is smaller than our other assisted living building. There is a long-term plan to add additional units in a phase down the road. If we need to add more units, we can. But for this repositioning, we're looking at 24 units. The question about who ends up here, I think each building is going to have a different appeal. So our existing assisted living building, Hayden Hall, it's going to have a wellness focus. We're going to have an expanded wellness center. We're going to have the aquatic center. You've got larger locker rooms. It's going to be those that are, more focused on wellness. You also have an attraction with the existing Hayden Hall building because it's so close to our healthcare center. So if your spouse is in the healthcare center, you may want to be closer, and you may be drawn to Hayden Hall naturally. So this new building that we're proposing has more of an arts-based focus. We want this to feel like the arts center. And so that may be attractive for some residents to be closer to art studios. So I think we're trying to provide two different buildings with two different appeals. And I think some of it's going to depend on availability of what we have at any given time. So no particular type of resident that would end up here versus the other. I just think they're going to have different appeals.
Thank you.
Matt,
Yeah.
it might be worth noting you just refreshed the dining area in Hayden. Right now, that's the best view. That dining room's got the best view on campus.
That's right. In 2010, when we did our last repositioning, we stepped up the game big time in that dining room. We moved the dining room from the second floor to the top floor. We gave it a nice view on two sides. I think the one thing that dining room is not going to have that this one will is that exhibition kitchen, which could be something that we could revisit down the road if we needed to. So I think it might be good to kind of go into the more details of the pub now, if,
Yeah.
yep. I'm sorry, unless there were more questions about assisted living, I didn't see any more. Okay. Looks good. Go ahead, John.
Okay. Hey, Matt, you want to walk through the different parts of the pub and the dining experience down here?
Sure, sure. I think to annotate, I'm just gonna switch over to my screen if that's all right, real quick, just to,
Okay, so I will stop sharing.
yep.
Okay, good deal.
And then we will shift gears over to my screen, screen 2. Everybody should be able to see
Yep.
Mhm.
same plans on my screen now. Let me move some of these faces over. So on this level, once again, as they mentioned, that movie theater experience is kind of this white box here. And we will have a hospitality kind of counter point in the blue area. So, you know, if you wanted to grab popcorn or a Snickers bar or a bottle of beverage before a movie, you would have the ability to do that here at this location. It's also going to kind of be the hub in which, if you're eating in the pub, you would be able to check in with that host or hostess before proceeding into that environment. From a back of the house standpoint, I've equipped Adam and his team with walk-in coolers, freezers, dry storage. They'll have full production in the back of the house to be able to assist with some of the bulk needs for the AL kitchen on the 3rd floor. And then as you work your way into this orangey pink color, we have the pub. And the pub feel, I'll show you a plan view right now, and then I'll show you a couple different views of what this will feel like. But it will have a openness feel to it. We are not hiding that kitchen, that a la carte cooking and plating in the back of the house. This is an environment that will kind of be fully transparent, and knowing that connection between chef and resident is there, and you can say hello and they can see the smiles on your faces when you're eating the wonderful, delicious food, and vice versa. So on the right side will be kind of more of the pub kind of bar feel. And then on the north side, still that bar seating, but now you get a little bit of a transparency into this beautiful hearth oven that we are going to highlight in this environment. And you can kind of see things coming in and out of that hearth oven. You know, we don't want to think about hearth ovens as just making pizzas. They're able to provide many different menu aspects other than just making pizza. So, but seeing that individual there throwing in you know, a beautiful steak to be seared, or a little bowl of mussels into that hearth oven, and kind of seeing that flame is nice. On the back side over here, we kind of tucked in a little server support area so that those servers don't have to go all the way back to the kitchen when they need something. It'll kind of be hidden in this zone and connect the kind of 2 dining spaces. And then the area that I'm about to circle right here is kind of that major cooking lineup, that cooking zone, and that you'll kind of see in that open kitchen aspect. I'm going to move to some different views real quick so you can kind of get a feel of what those areas might look like. So disregard walls that might have blank things on them. That, you know, we work with the interiors team to make sure that that back bar is fully designed and developed and fits the aesthetic for the space. But this would be the bar side, and there would be several beers on tap, as well as the opportunity to have wine and or a mixed drink if needed. As you work your way around to that north side, we're dropping the counter a little bit to allow different styles of seating, different heights for different individuals. So now we can have more of a seated experience and still see into that hearth oven, still see the kind of what's going on in the kitchen and that kind of transparent aspect. I'm going to move to the kitchen side now. And this dining room will have full view of kind of that chef experience with a nice, beautiful piece of glass that will separate the cooking component from the dining room, but will still allow for the transparency to view through this space so that Adam and his team can highlight, specials and can highlight that, hey, yes, your food is being cooked to order in this experience. And you can, have a conversation with that individual if you wanted to. So types of menu items, I don't ever want to limit Adam and his team to a specific style of cuisine. The firepower and the equipment that we're giving him will allow for a quite array of menu options, from possibly everything from, once again, a well-executed cheeseburger to a braised short rib over creamy polenta, to, yes, possibly a pizza or a flatbread that might come out of that hearth oven as well.
We can do that.
Yeah.
So just a different view here, just, to kind of the openness and feel of all around this. Really the only wall in this whole experience is going to be that wall that kind of separates the bar from the cooking side. Other than that, there's full transparency kind of all around, except for this lovely mechanical closet that we can't get away from.
Matt, may I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
What are your ideas on the hours that this pub is open versus our dining room now?
Adam, I don't know if maybe you want to jump in, but we do see this as being a venue that could be open for lunch and dinner.
Yeah, and we're even considering a late night portion where there are limited appetizers that are executed off that display kitchen for maybe light snacks or very light entrees later on. To be honest, this is a deeper question that we've been asking ourselves over the past couple of days about, capacity, not only design, but intent, hours and things of that sort. And there's some things that haven't quite landed, but the great thing about it is Matt and the Scopos team have built in enough flexibility that we can basically do almost anything. And that's the great thing about this design.
Okay, thanks.
Any other great questions?
Yeah, I have a question, a couple of kind of broad questions. Who do you think will use the pub? I mean, as a concept, I think it's great, but who do you think will use it, and kind of for what purposes? I mean, I know eating and drinking, obviously, but do you see groups of people coming in, or it's a place to meet to, have a drink with someone or something like that? What's the concept behind it?
Yeah, I think it's all the above, and from our experience, it's another dining venue concept. It's another place to experience the great food Adam's team has to offer in a different location, so that you're not eating in that same seat in that same environment every night. So there are some individuals who like the consistency, and then there are plenty of groups that like dining and trying new things. So bringing a different experience to the community, I think, is what we're trying to do.
Will there be tables around this bar? I see just limited seating there. Will there be some like tables for 4, tables for 2?
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
correct. The floor plan itself has not been quite finely defined, but again, the great thing is that you can put all kinds of combinations of tables out there, whether it's a high top for 6 on bar stools or 4 tops that get put together. The flexibility of this type of floor plan means that you can have several different environments within the same space, and people can have very unique experiences all the way through the space.
And with this being our 50%, SD, there is no floor plan layout yet. However, all of this area that you see blank will have an array, like Adam said, of styles of seating.
And Gordon, to your question, I think what's probably left unsaid is, is this a space where we can use our meal of the day option, right? And so there may be folks who decide that this is the place where they like to have 5 meals out of 7 or 3 meals out of 7. So right now, because the concept is so fluid, we're not ruling out anything.
Yeah, I think the intention is
Another-
that it's going to work into our meal plan. And if our meal plan has evolved in certain ways, it's going to be part of that, just like the cafe and the bistro are. It will be just part of our meal plan.
You bet.
So what is the overall capacity of the pub as you see it now? At any given time, what would its capacity be, max?
I mean, generally speaking, we're probably looking at a max of 165 in different seating groups. And that's the interior. The exterior probably allows for another 60 seats, perhaps.
Okay.
And I'm being generous.
Would that be for a given meal, a specific time of the day? Say dinner, for
You
example.
want to speak to that?
So, like
Matt,
Adam said, if your max at a seating is 165, the hours of operation for this venue will allow for for it to handle much more because there will be table turns involved. Well, it's not a venue that they're seeing as everybody comes down at 4:30 and is ready for dinner. It is going to be a flexible space that offers those times. Some people like to dine at 4:30. Some people like to dine at 7. So.
Right, and I think it's yet to be determined whether this is, a space where we do both lunch and dinner and late night, or, do we do a Sunday brunch? And I guess what I want to say is that, again, the space is so flexible that I guess it's up to us as a community to decide how we want to actually utilize this space.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did I hear you correctly? You said 165 people at once?
Probably not at once, but probably available seating. Currently we're not able to seat anything like that, but 2 years down the road, hopefully things have changed drastically. So you're talking about bar seats, the seats in front of the execution table. It's probably a little bit less than 165, but as we're looking at it right now, without any table configurations, it's probably anywhere between 125 and 165, depending on how those tables and seats are arranged.
Wow, that's incredible. One other question: do you envision it being service or kind of buffet or something like that?
No, this would be full table service. This is just like going into any gastro pub or restaurant downtown. This is sitting down and having it served to you completely. Yeah, there's no buffet portion of this that's involved, unless of course we decide that we want to do a buffet Sunday brunch or something along those lines. There's always that capacity to do that, but this is all table service.
Okay.
Matt Sharp, would you agree?
Yes, I would agree. I also want to point out there's actually 2 outdoor spaces. There's the lighter pink rectangle that I believe is a covered outdoor space that faces the Circle Woods. And then there's also some access on the right side there to the central courtyard that could actually accommodate some tables, maybe in nicer weather. And possibly these are tables with umbrellas. So they're during nice weather, you can have a lot of outdoor opportunities here.
Can any of them be enclosed in inclement weather?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
During the outdoor venues, can any of those be enclosed for inclement weather? Are they strictly outdoors for something?
I think it's possible. I think we need to have a conversation about if we want to install heating elements or if we want to install some of those plastic windows that you see at restaurants. I think it could be. We're a little early to know, but that pink area on the left could be used in colder weather, I think.
Right. Yeah.
I have another question. What would be the impact of this on the current bistro and the current Canterbury room?
The elephant in the room. Yes, Miss Brandon.
Well,
Might as well bring it up.
we see it as a compliment. We want to create something that's different than what we have, that just adds another option to our menu of venues. And so I think it just would be a compliment.
I love
You're
it. Getting additional residents.
Correct.
I really like it. And it reminds me a little bit of being on a cruise ship. But what's the impact on the staffing levels that we would need to accommodate something as beautiful as all of this?
Well, I mean, I can step in and say that there is the impact to our staffing levels. We're talking about an additional assisted living dining facility as well as another skilled care dining facility that's not necessarily represented. And it all depends on hours of operation and the specific elements of the concept to depend on how much staffing has to happen within that little execution kitchen in the back kitchen. So suffice to say that this does represent an increase in staffing, although without being able to map out menus and schedules, it's a little hard to define right now.
Thank you.
So can you talk about the number of anticipated new residents that would be folded into all of the dining venues?
Sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, you expect new people to come in as well, do you not? You anticipate
yes.
new residents.
We do, yes.
And so those numbers, how do they impact overall, this overall?
You mean how many new units?
Here, Matt.
Yeah, go for it.
So we're building the new apartment building would be about 90 residences. And then there's, in the initial phase, there's 2 hybrid buildings. Those will have 12 units each. So we're looking at about, when that next phase of expansion were to be completed, I'm going to give it a ballpark of around 175 people. That would be additional to the campus. Now, keep in mind that with the hybrid buildings that we're looking at building, those will be done in time over phases. So there are additional people that would eventually fold into the project. Hence, when you see this space, you go, wow, this looks like a lot, and it is, but it's being added so that we can, as we phase in those hybrid units, we're going to increase even more. There's, I believe on the plan, there's 12 potential hybrid buildings with 12 units in each. So there's 144 residences there. Generally, with a residence building, a new one, we would put an algorithm of somewhere between 1.5 and 1.6 to accommodate for couples. So, you know, if you have 10 units, then you've probably got 16 people, that type of thing. So I know this can be overwhelming, but we are looking at trying to accommodate for the long haul of the community. And the great part is for the existing residents especially, is there is a little burden of construction to go on for a while, but adding more density into our community enables us to add more venues and amenities. And that's what's so great about this, without drastically or even at all impacting your cost any more than it would have normally. So those new people coming in, and we also know that the new people coming in are unfortunately going to have to pay higher entrance fees.
So then can you talk about the order of the construction?
I don't know that we're there yet.
Okay.
To do that. This is still evolving. We're looking at, as far as the order goes, we know that the apartment building and the hybrid buildings will likely be toward the front end of the construction because, but the amenity space will likely go with it. So there'll be a large amount of construction going on at the same time. The question is, are there any pieces of the project that we can fast forward? We've had thought processes about maybe fast forwarding the parking deck you know, to help get that piece, some of the pieces done earlier. But we're just not there yet. We're still got an intensive next few months of planning. And the big part, as you all know, the feasibility study component with Mario McKenzie is going to be real key. As we approach 100% schematic design plans, you know, once we get feedback from y'all, we'll be starting to get close to 100% complete schematic design plans. Then comes the hard part, in that these plans will all be given to Rogers contractors, and they're going to price out, given the current market conditions, what this would cost to go forward in a relatively soon time frame. And those numbers of cost are going to be critical as to how much can we do. You know, all of these things are so amazing, the amenities and so forth, but unfortunately, reality hits home on every project I've ever done is when you get the pricing. And you probably had this if you ever built a home or did a refurbishment to a home, it always costs more than you think it's going to.
Yes.
And what's happening in the construction markets that we're hearing right now is during COVID, the past year, there was most projects, if they weren't already started, most projects got put on a shelf. Well, they're starting to go forward because there was projects that were further along in the planning process to ours that are starting to proceed. And there was a bottleneck, if you will, of projects that were on the shelf. So we're hearing that the markets are high demand right now. We're also hearing certain products, steel and lumber, just a lot of products are not readily available as they might normally be. So that increases cost and the time of building. I don't want to freak everybody out, but you know, we've methodically got to evaluate it, analyze. The thing I'm confident with is we have the best team aboard on this project to do this analysis. And we've also been very careful to not pull the trigger during a really tough time. We're just going to continue with the analysis and keep you all apprised of where we are. And I will say, some of you are here. We had no idea when we did that last big project that we were going to align ourselves with doing that project parallel with the biggest recession we've seen in a long, long time. And by the grace of God and a lot of hard work from people and patience of residents, that decision to move forward with that project turned out to be one of the best things that we've done. It's really given us the ability to be A-rated, to have more amenity base. And so if they, you know, it kind of has a little bit of a similar feel to me, and it makes me uncomfortable, to be honest with you, but I do have the wherewithal to know that we have been in this situation before and we navigated it well. But we'll just continue to analyze and keep you all apprised and keep the faith.
Yeah.
And
Matt, do we have any estimated date of completion for this whole project?
Well, here's the current, and we'll be giving you more information about that. I would say we're targeting late April or so that we're going to get a lot more of this analysis and be able to give you a better idea of timeframes. But right now, if things went really well, and they don't always go really well, And when you're talking about a project this size, but if things went really well, we would be groundbreaking sometime probably in the spring of next year, 22. And then you've got the better part of a 2-year construction project. So you're not looking at these units coming on board until 24.
Mhm.
That's you know, kind of the better scenario right now, and we'll keep y'all apprised as we get more information.
Yeah, so a lot of variables go into this.
There are, and you know, it's the old thing. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a
One bite at a
time.
time.
Yeah.
No, Pat Probst has had her hand up for a little while. Pat?
Yes, I do. Just a question. These are very impressive plans. One thing I'm either missing or isn't there is anything analogous to the Canterbury Room. Fine dining, limited menu, dress up, which we all love. Is there anything like that planned, or is it there and I'm not seeing it?
Sure. It is the existing Canterbury Room, which it's there right now. We just, it's not in this new building. It's going to continue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I don't know how that whole experience is going to evolve over time. You know, we may revisit the Canterbury Room and the Bistro and the Cannon's Corner and sort of figure out a different program or tweak it. But there's no plans to eliminate it right now.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ms. Durant. I'm not thinking, I can't really hear you, Judy.
She's muted.
Well,
Hit it again, Judy. Your mic's not working.
yeah, I don't think her microphone's on. She's not muted.
Yeah.
Judy, if you want to type it in a chat, if you see that chat on the bottom of the screen there, you can type in your question. I think your microphone might be off.
I will.
Oh, here we
I
go.
hear
I can
you.
hear you now.
Now I hear you.
Well,
Now I
isn't that
hear you.
weird? Okay, my question is, during the recession, y'all went ahead and built, but now during a recession, the cost for materials are usually lower, and during a big building boom, the cost for materials, as you've said, will be going up. Have you so set your minds on building it that if the prices are very high, that you'll go ahead with it anyway?
Yeah, I'll just say, we have not set our mind on absolutely going forward. It's always an evaluation at a given point in time. And you know, when I go back to 2008, what was so interesting, when the board made the decision and management, we all made the decision to go forward, none of us had any clue what was going to happen over the next 2 years. We had no idea whether it was going to be a 2-year elongated recession. I will say though, even during that recession, we experienced some cost escalations on certain products that made it, it did make it stressful. So I think, you know, kind of my experience in doing these projects is the things that happen to you before, you work so hard to prevent them from happening again. It's usually a different set of circumstances, but and maybe some of the things that happen again, but every experience is usually different. And certainly post-COVID this last year, for all of you, all of us, who would have imagined what we were going to go through and experience. So the thing that we do know, there's still an anxious group of future residents that want to come to Deerfield, and we validated that hasn't changed. And so that's one piece of the equation, and that's not the only piece that's going to drive this, but we're going to do a good, thorough evaluation of this and make the best decision that we can once we get all the pieces of the equation together.
Okay, thank you.
So we do have a couple more areas to review if you want to do that, or we could keep going with Q&A. You want to do one more question?
John is not on this committee, but he is dying to ask something. So could he please ask a question?
Sure.
What's your planning number for total number of residents in independent living when the project is complete?
So I think Bob's got that number.
Well, I will in a minute. If you want to go to another question.
So I'm thinking about, you got about a 20% increase. Is that about right?
No, what percent increase?
20.
No, it's much more than 20.
Okay.
The
Well, then my
initial,
question comes, I'm
initial-
looking at facility planning for dining and whether or not you're going to expand the bistro and Canterbury to accommodate this large increase in numbers. And if it's not the facility expansion, how do you anticipate accommodating that number of people?
So here's the big potential piece of the algorithm that that we're considering changing. And the pandemic has somewhat also put this in this situation. But for future contracts with the new buildings, we're likely going to offer different meal programs to where everybody is not on a 1 meal a day program. And we think that's going to make a significant difference. We've been hearing this in other communities. I think Gibbons on their last big expansion, they included 15 meals a month as the standard program, as opposed to 1 meal a day. So those are options. Those types of options are things that we're looking at. Haven't come to firm conclusions, but what we continue to know is that residents today and tomorrow want more choice and flexibility. And they don't necessarily want to be tied. Some love the meal a day, every day, and not everybody wants that.
Yep. So I think if we could kind of quickly go over two more areas that are related to dining. John, do you want to look at the Blue Ridge room, or Matt? Either one.
Oh, Blue Ridge room?
Well, we can, yeah.
Okay.
There's really two more areas I want to touch on. One is skilled nursing, because we're looking at putting in a new kitchen and a new dining room, and also the Blue Ridge room, because there are some dining components. I just want to kind of touch on those with this group.
Okay. So this is the new Blue Ridge room addition. That's the existing community center. And we're basically going to be renovating from this corner of the existing community center and putting in the new Blue Ridge room. And then this is the connector right here that goes over to Henry.
Right.
The Blue itself is about a third larger than the existing Blue Ridge room. And just very, very quickly, very general. Of course, we've got the pre-function out front with access directly outside to the covered parking. This is the main entrance to the community center. And then this right here goes over to the existing dining venues. So right now there's bathrooms located right here. We're putting new bathrooms in on this side of the corridor, and then putting in the Blue Ridge room. It's got storage, it's got ramps to get up to the platform. And then in this corner right here is where the pantry is for any food service being taken out to the Blue Ridge room. And then there's a counter along this wall on the left-hand side that's associated with food service also. So Matt, you want to kind of jump in and elaborate a little bit?
Sure. We wanted to give Adam and his team the ability to cater functions or have some support in this area. Let me switch over to my screen real quick. You should be seeing that now. So when we look at the Blue Ridge Room as a whole, the area down in purple is an area where they can bring over hot boxes, warming carts. They have some refrigeration in here. Some basic stuff like hand sinks, prep sinks, being able to brew coffee here and or tea and not have to take it a long distance from somewhere else, and some ice storage or some ice production as well. And then kind of as Matt and John mentioned, the counter on the left of the Blue Ridge Room is a very flexible counter that underneath will have built-in carts that can come out and act as stations throughout the Blue Ridge Room. Or if you wanted to set up a bar for a function, you would be able to have a temporary bar aspect. So it gives Adam and the ops team the ability to have food out in the venue if needed. And once again, have a little back of the house storage spot as well.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
This has nothing to do with dining, but is anything going to be done to improve the acoustics in the Blue Ridge Room so it can be used for good concerts?
Yes, the answer is yes. We are looking at a much higher ceiling. We're looking at a more state-of-the-art sound system that provides better sound both to the stage and to the audience, which is one of the things we're lacking right now. So yes, we are looking at that with the design team. We want to make that experience better.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions on the Blue Ridge Room? We are going to have a meeting tomorrow with the Programs and Activities Committee to have more
On
of a
the
deep
Blue Ridge
dive.
Room, Matt, I have a question. On the
Yes,
Blue
sir.
Ridge Room, is the floor flat?
Yeah, it is flat.
Okay, because at one point it was going to be sloped. So I just wondered if it was flat.
Yeah.
I don't think it is, John or Dustin.
Yeah, it's flat.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then the last area I just wanted us to touch on is skilled nursing. So we talked about assisted living, but if we add an additional piece onto our skilled nursing unit, we will need to add some dining space. And so I just wanted to kind of make you aware of what we're planning down in the lower level of this new building.
So the approach and the kind of the trend that we're seeing is no matter what level of care, there should be some level of experience, quality, and consistency across the board, whether it's IL, skilled, AL, et cetera. So in this design, the elevator would have a back access to the pantry. That pantry would house all of the stuff we don't really want to see, some dishwashing, some storage, the brewing of the coffees and the teas. And then out front, we would have more of an open concept experience. And I'm going to get to a picture that will kind of better show that aspect. So that Adam and his team could have that entree of the day on display on the front counter, as well as giving them the ability to raise the level of quality on certain items, i.e. breakfast being one of those areas in which eggs are great when they are cooked to order. Eggs aren't that great when they have to be cooked, held, transported, held again, and then served. So if I'm a resident in skilled care, I still want that great quality and experience that Adam is giving on an IL aspect. So giving the operations team a little more equipment and firepower gives some more all-day available menu aspects down here is kind of what we were designing for. Does that help, Matt?
It sure does. That is good. Do we have any questions about our healthcare design?
So is this spot in addition to the current dining room?
So, yeah, good question. What we're looking at doing, if you can imagine our nursing, and maybe John could pull something up. So what we're looking at doing is adding an addition onto our existing healthcare center. If you're familiar with the North Hall is the wing that as you kind of go straight past the chapel. We're looking at sort of replicating that and having a sort of 2-story, I think it's 13 units per floor pod that just plays off of the existing health center. So the residents that live in the upper floor would actually, yep, there's a good image. The residents that live in that upper floor would actually use the existing skilled nursing dining room, and those that live in the lower floor would have their own dining room kind of built into that area.
And the approach to the aesthetics in that lower level is not a commercial kitchen aspect. It still is going to feel like a home and have a residential look and feel to it, except give Adam the durability and some equipment to be able to produce some foods in which are better served to order tableside pretty much.
Thank you,
My
Matt.
sense is we're going to have to clone Adam so he can be in all of these additional venues. Blessings on him.
There's a cheaper alternative. Just buy me a pair of roller skates.
I'm just concerned about the staffing because even though it's been a year, I haven't forgotten how shorthanded we were in the bistro a good portion of the time. And that was only one dining venue. And now we're talking about popping up places all over the campus that are going to be available for all kinds of exciting possibilities that all say someone will have to be staffing that area. And I just am hoping that we're going to be able to recruit a very sizable number of staff to
Sandra,
cover.
your concern is valid and shared by all of us. And the great thing about this is it gives us some time to actually plan on what that looks like. Even now, when we're talking about reopening the bistro for in-person dining, it gives us an opportunity to kind of revision about what we want in the future. Not only what we as an operator wants, but what you as residents want as a community. So we've got a little bit of time, and it gives us time to build a culture where people want to come to work, that they're excited to come to work, and that we can actually staff these areas well and with the right type of folks.
There are a lot of chefs out there looking for work right now, and you live in an area where a lot of people are moving to and is somewhat of a kind of culinary mecca, on the East Coast and as a country as a whole. And that pub is now a great recruitment tool as like someone like myself who never would have thought of senior living being so cool and having an experience like it was with a pub. If you would have told me senior living when I was in culinary school or even 10 years ago, I would have said, no way, that's not happening. But now that you have these cool venues and experiences, Adam can treat them from a hiring standpoint like a real restaurant would.
Great point. Yeah, what we've observed over time is that when facilities and communities reinvest in their infrastructure and reinvest in their amenity base, it's a recruitment tool for staff. Not only is it recruitment for residents, but staff want to be in these nice places. They want to be in these, as Matt said, these cool venues. So we feel like this will help us recruit good staff.
Well, I'm glad to know we're a cool venue. I like that.
Yeah. It's for cool people.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
And
Bill, yes,
I mean,
sir.
I gotta now start convincing my parents to move from Georgia to Asheville because a fabric studio, a pottery studio, and a pub all in the same building is something that I would want to frequent more as a child and as grandkids, and that's right up my alley. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
We
Bill?
haven't even talked about the tattoo parlor yet. So
That's right.
before we left dining venues, I wanted to leave just one idea with the Adam and the crew. I know they're already looking at this, and it comes down to a staffing area. You mentioned maybe doing some late night snacks out of the pub. That's kind of a novel idea. I hadn't thought of that. I'd like to ask you to think about it a little bit on the other side of the calendar, between the pub and Riverwalk. Yeah, there are any number of days, for whatever reason, I wind up missing lunch, but I really don't want to go down for a dinner. If I knew there was somewhere at 3 and 4 in the afternoon, I could go get a cup of coffee and a piece of pie or a pizza and a beer. Boy, that'd be a big hit. I think you'd get a lot of use in that. If you can figure the flow and the labor out, that'd be a nice option to have somewhere in the middle of the day where you could go get refreshment.
Well, I think that's where this type of an environment works really, really well. You know, it's open for a long period. And if you want to come in at 2:30, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock and get an early dinner, this is where it works really, really well and provides all the residents an opportunity to do exactly that, Bill, just as you said. So
yeah, that'd be a big hit. Thank you.
And with that pub menu, it doesn't necessarily have to change from lunch to dinner. Maybe these special changes, but if I want to get a club sandwich, a chips, and a chili at 7 p.m. or 12 p.m., it's the same. So Adam's team will treat it like a real restaurant, you know, would be out there. So
yeah, it kind of screams as kind of like a one menu operation with other specials added in or layered in as we seem necessary. Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
Love the idea of a club sandwich at 7 o'clock. Love it.
Yeah. So does this change the Riverwalk?
Not necessarily. I think that the Riverwalk might continue to evolve over time and we might continue to make improvements, but I see this being just a complement, just an additional option. The Riverwalk's kind of got its own thing going. The Bistro's got its own thing going, and this is going to have something completely different.
Yeah, the Riverwalk will always be positioned as that quick service area where you can come up and get something right away and walk right out or sit down and enjoy your meal. Whereas I think the pub is a little bit more of a casual, laid back, but much longer extended time experience. So each one of the areas will start to own a personality all its own, and people will gravitate towards there depending on how they're feeling in any particular day.
Y'all will remember when we started with the concept of the cafe, a lot of that was built around because we actually didn't have room for the baking area in the main kitchen when we did a renovation. So we moved the baking portion to the cafe, and that's how kind of the menu developed, was around bakery goods. I see the pub, what I think will be unique is that oven, the hearth oven, and probably I think we've incorporated in there, Adam and Matt, haven't we have incorporated a grilling portion? A grill?
Yeah, that's correct. It looks like there is a grill, fryers. So there's a lot that can be done out of that front area for sure.
So that's a type of preparation that we really can't and really don't want to do in the cafe. So I think we're distinguishing as, you know, what kind of service and food menu do you want? We wanted to make this different and make it complement what we already have in place. And to me, it really does relieve the monotony of eating in the same place, the same menu, and it gives you a lot of choice.
One question, we had the green egg in Tooten that has become very, very popular. Would the pub now be having that kind of outside barbecue possibility?
Oh, Ms. Heiser.
Oh.
Just keep pushing us. Just keep pushing us. We love that. We love it. Sure, let's go out there. Let's do s'mores out on the fire pit.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Adam.
That's quite all right. It's a great question. Deborah, did you want to add in?
So, and let me real quick, you know, you're in North Carolina, barbecue. I mean, it's, you know, you got to have it. And for me, Carolina style barbecue is my favorite out of all the barbecues. But however, it doesn't mean that it has to be done right at that venue. Barbecue can be done anywhere, and, you know, brought over to that experience, because barbecue is something that is, you know, 10, 12 hours for a brisket. And then now we're, you know, slicing and warming that environment. If you're looking for that outdoor kitchen experience, that grilling kitchen experience, that would be something that is a little separate. I have a big green egg too. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as you guys think of more questions and more comments, I'm sure you're going to come up with more ideas. Feel free to send them to me and the team, and I'll compile all the feedback that I'm getting from these various meetings, and I'll get those to the design team as we continue to evolve these plans. So, any additional questions before we close?
I just have to tell you all something that's funny. About a year and a half ago, I was on one of those focus groups, and it was mentioned that the new community center might have a pizza parlor in it. And some woman in the back of the room put her hand up and said, well, what kind of pizza are you going to serve?
Good pizza.
Yeah, right. Good pizza. Did I see another hand up before we go? Or was that it? Nope. Well, I really appreciate it, guys. I mean what I say. Just send me more comments and questions as you think of it. And we want this to be collaborative as we continue on this journey. So just really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Have a good meeting, guys.
Thank you.
Take
All
care.
right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt.